Hi everyone, welcome back. If you saw our last video, you saw our truly magical garden update, and we got our first fall harvest. Today we are making a fall harvest sheet pan pizza and a gorgeous side salad with that fire leaf lettuce. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, to get started here, we have our oven warming up to 400 degrees. We have our delicata squash. This is not from the garden, but none of our winter squash are ready yet. So we had to grab this one from the store. And this is a chunky squash. This is about 1 pound and 5 ounces. You do not need one this large, and I don't think we're gonna use all of this, but we'll go ahead and roast what we can. So I have a really, really sharp chef's knife here, and we want these quite thin. But this is going to be in these whole rings on the pizza. It's gonna look absolutely gorgeous and just give a nice, delicious fall flavor without being overwhelming large chunks of squash. We are only halfway through this thing and we already have enough squash for the pizza. I'm actually gonna go ahead and make an executive decision to just wrap this and set this aside for now because I wouldn't normally slice the squash this thin. We're gonna set this aside and go ahead and clean the seeds out of what we have here. How I clean the seeds out of delicata squash when I've sliced them in the round like this is I just take a paring knife and run it in a little ring in the center. Super, super easy. Super fast. This really does not take much effort at all. If you have really sharp knives and you don't feel like you have the dexterity to do this all in your hand without cutting yourself, just go ahead and lay this flat on your cutting board and you can carve out directly on here. So I would recommend doing this if you have, safety concerns and you are a little new to working with really sharp knives. But it is, for me, a lot harder to get a nice, clean, pretty circle this way. You can see that's kind of chunky and choppy. This is a little bit more, smooth because it's just the natural line. So you do whatever you feel comfortable with. The most important thing is that your little fingers are safe and the squash is going to be beautiful no matter what. Now, since we are talking about gardening a little bit in this video, these seeds are perfect to rinse off and thoroughly dry and keep in a little bag. You can keep it in the pantry and just plant these next season. Okay, so we are just giving these a nice light drizzle of olive oil, salt, and pepper. All right, so we're just gonna pop these in our 400-degree oven, and because they are quite thin, I'm gonna check them at 15 minutes, but we may need to take it to 20. Right, and that is absolutely perfect. We want them nice and cooked through, just a little bit of browning around the edges. When you're making pizza, you really do want your ingredients pretty much cooked completely through before you put them on the pizza. So this is perfect. So now that these are done, we're just gonna set them aside. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn our oven all the way up to 500 degrees and just leave it on. You want this a minimum of 30 minutes before you get your pizza in the oven and up to 1 to 2 hours. So you really, really want a screaming hot oven to get that nice, perfect, chewy, crispy pizza crust. Okay, you guys, so what we need to do now is we need to get this gorgeous, bubbly pizza dough inside this sheet pan. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drizzle some olive oil Make sure that it's just completely coated, kind of like you would grease a cake pan. I cannot remember off the top of my head what recipe we used, but we did grab a recipe for the pizza dough online from a blogger. So I will locate that and link it in the description.
To speak to the easiness, I made it.
Nick made this dough, and it came out well.
So anyone can do it.
Ooh, it's chilly still. So all we're gonna do here is just use our hands and just kind of press and press and press. You know, trust the process. Get the dough stretched out. Do not be afraid, because if you leave it too thick, it's gonna be thick, is what's gonna happen there. So the dough, we found, always can go farther than you think it can. And I can tell you that we are relatively new to the homemade pizza game. And typically when we get to this place, we wind up stopping and then we end up with way too chunky of a crust. So I'm really pushing myself past my comfort zone here and just stretching and stretching and stretching and making sure this is really filled up. It is tough because I made some tears, which I can tell you is not helping things. But essentially what we're gonna do now that we've kind of stretched this out and beat it to death is we are just gonna leave it to sit and rest, and giving it that rest in the pan is gonna let the air bubbles kind of, you know, come back to life a little bit. It needs to sit at least 30 minutes, but you can do this all day if you want, if you remember, which we didn't. All right, team. You know, when Nick and I set out to make this video, we talked about what it was that we wanted, and we just wanted to make some really like calming, relaxing, really just pretty enjoyable content to make everybody feel good and feel like they're just transported to a place where everything's a lot less crazy than it is. And we were on that page for a while, and things very quickly devolved into quite a comedy of errors over here. We had everything kind of timed out to exactly when everything was going to be done. But while we were out working on the garden, we heard this shatter and clash.
If I may have to pause when I get around.
What was that? Go inside. Go inside right now. Our dog had gotten into our prepped food pans and our squash and ate all of it. Hence the singed paper here, because I threw some more squash in, but the oven was at 500 instead of the 400 it was supposed to be, as I told you it should be earlier. So don't do what we did. So we apologize for the drastic change in the time of day, but let's just take a beat, let's take a breath, and let's all together focus on some of the really positive things we have going on here. First off, being our pizza dough. The one good thing about this calamity that has ensued is that our dough has had a lot more time to rest in the pan, which has resulted in some really, really exceptional air pockets. The dough is looking absolutely incredible. I think it's gonna come out amazing. And I'm sure you guys all saw the absolute disaster that was Nicholas behind the camera here, trying to protect the garden from the frost in what ultimately wound up being the pitch dark and insane wind. But before all that happened, we got this absolutely gorgeous, incredible Toscana kale. I mean, have you ever seen anything so beautiful? All right, so it is finally time. We are gonna put all of these pieces together to create a magical whole. So this is, I guess what you could consider a sauceless pizza. I absolutely love just olive oil and garlic as my pizza sauce. I like it really, really simple. I just think a little bit of minced garlic and olive oil spread all across the bottom of the dough is so perfect, especially for what we're doing today, which is just really lovely garden fresh items on our pizza. So on this plate, you can do this in a bowl, whatever works for you. We're just gonna drizzle this kale in a little bit of olive oil. We are going to hit it with salt, and we're gonna very, very gently massage it in. Kale really benefits from getting the oil nice and worked in. And this is gonna create a nice, perfect, even crisp. Okay, so we are ready to place this on our pizza. And because this is a really, you know, fall-inspired recipe, I kind of want to have it just, you know, sort of like these beautiful leaves spreading out almost like a tree. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to lay on our beautiful delicata squash. This is going to be a little less structured. You know, we're just kind of doing what feels natural, nothing too put together. Okay, so this is already looking so pretty. I mean, does that not just scream fall coziness?
It kind of looks like a Christmas tree to me.
It does kind of look like it. It's like a holiday, a little holiday tree. I don't actually know what this is, but this is a local cheese here from Blackberry Farms here in Tennessee. And this is actually a sheep's cheese. I know you guys have seen me eat a lot of cheese on this channel. A layer of cheese. We are going to do our last layer of cheese, and you really, really want to load up here. Cheese. Cheese. This was an 8-ounce bag of cheese. We've gone through the whole thing, but it's okay because we have more cheese. But I am, in fact, lactose intolerant. So I've kind of started really getting to a place where I try to only eat sheep cheese, or if you're lactose intolerant, I'm sure you've heard this term, AR2 dairy. It's a different type of protein that is basically generated from most cheeses that aren't cow's milk. But for those of you at home that don't have any sort of dairy sensitivities, just plain ricotta is a perfect swap out for this. It performs very similarly to ricotta. As per usual with our recipes here, cheese is relatively interchangeable dependent on your taste and your tolerance. But for pizza, traditionally, you always want a high moisture cheese, which we are experiencing here with this, and you want a low moisture cheese, which we are rounding out here with a sheep's milk pecorino. So we are just gonna run this all over the whole pizza. And with this style of pizza, you can take the cheese pretty far to the edges if you want. You'll just get those nice little crunchy nummins on the end, but it's up to you. So this is perfect. We're nice and evenly coated, but we're not completely drenched. All right, so I'm just gonna do not too much because there's plenty of salt in the cheese, but a very, very fine final sprinkling of salt over everything. I'm gonna crack our pepper. Oh, so gorgeous. So our oven has been at 500 for like 2 solid hours. The longer your crust can sit out and the longer your pizza can be at 500, the better results you're gonna have. So I'm gonna put this in for an initial round, 10 minutes, and then we're gonna rotate it, and then we're gonna keep kind of checking it every few minutes until it's done. Okay, our pizza is in the oven and we are gonna move on to our salad. I don't even think we'll need 10 minutes to get this done, but here is our absolutely beautiful fire leaf lettuce. Again, this is straight out of the garden. We took a little nibble and it is so sweet and tender. It's like the most just delicious romaine you've ever had in your life. It's not a romaine lettuce, I don't think. I'm not sure. So one of my favorite dressings is honey mustard, and I think with our fall flavors we have going on, it's going to be perfect. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna top my salad with some pepitas. And now before I add anything else, I'm gonna just go ahead and make sure that my lettuce leaves and my pepitas have a nice even coat of salt. We're just gonna toss these very, very gently. We just don't want any one piece of lettuce to be like covered in salt. So for dressing, if you guys have viewed my channel or, you know, follow me on Instagram or my husband on Instagram, you probably already know that we make all of our dressings from scratch to order, so to speak. And the reason for that is because it's insanely easy to do. So to make an emulsification, you really just need to thoroughly blend together an oil and a vinegar. In this case, our vinegar aspect is the spicy mustard. So what I have here is just a decent amount of olive oil and a nice big dollop. I actually want a little more than that. I love a good spicy mustard. And then I put in just a little bit of coconut aminos. You would most likely have soy sauce in your house. Most people don't have this. So we've got these here and we're gonna make our initial emulsion. And you just whisk, 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 whisk until there is no more separation. There we go, it is that fast. You'll know when it's done, when this is nice and thick and glossy and incorporated. So there is your emulsion. And what I like to do when making dressing is I just kind of get my emulsion down as a base and then I add thinners as I go until I reach the consistency I want. But in this case, our next step is adding our honey. Oh God, oh God. This is gonna be probably the last of our beautiful French honey if you watched our French 30th birthday for me video. Just a spoonful here. You know, I don't do too much measuring. See, like that looks like a lot. So I'm gonna pop this spoon back in and let that drip back into the jar. Mix, 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 mix until it's all incorporated. So if you like really thick dressings like this, you could definitely just serve this here as is. But I want ours just a touch thinner than that, not too much. So I'm gonna add a little extra dash of coconut aminos because we've got a lot of salad here and I just want everything to have a nice even coat. Okay, so that's what I like. I like a consistency that's still thick but doesn't gloop up on a fork or a spoon. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a taste. Need salt, but it's delicious. Just the right amount of mustard to honey. Let's have the cameraman taste test because he's probably gonna want more mustard.
Oh, I think it's great.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So good. My new sweater. Okay, I'm gonna wait to dress this until our pizza is done, which is any moment now. We just rotated it. And the thing with fresh dressing is just that it will separate if you leave it for too long. And if that happens to you, just take your fork back again and just whisk, whisk, whisk it up. All right, let's take a look. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, look how gorgeous. And you know that this crust is good because, oh my goodness. If you guys could smell what I am smelling right now, this is absolutely gorgeous. It came out so perfect. All of the kale is nice and crisp without being overcooked. So you can see our pecorino has just added a nice little, that like crispy, crunchy crust cheese. And our sheep's cheese is just gonna create these beautiful little pockets that you bite into that's just soft and creamy and funky and delicious. And I don't think I can wait any longer to eat this. So let's let's get this prepped and served. Let's cheers to our first ever meal using ingredients harvested fresh from our garden.
Oh my God.
Is it amazing?
That's so good.
So good.
Not even playing up with the camera. This is really good.
You're not gonna be able to see this, but the crust is
It's
so
perfect.
bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
It's cooked perfectly all the way through.
Man, who made this dough?
Nice.
Last time I made this, I didn't put garlic on it.
Mm-hmm. It
And
makes
honestly,
a big difference.
it really needs it. It's perfect. It
Yeah.
honestly is really good. Squash is really good too.
The squash is perfect. The kale.
Kale is really crunchy. Super flavorful. Mm.
Wow. Look at the bottom of this crust.
Yeah. Like the bottom and the top, super crunchy.
Nice and crunchy.
And the middle is really
just like pillowy
soft.
and tender, but completely cooked through. I feel like I'm always running into dough being like, just kind of a little bit raw feeling when you try to make pizza at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like the outside gets cooked faster than the inside.
Mm. Mm.
Wow. Final thoughts so that we can just devour the rest of this without worrying about the camera being
Yeah,
on.
you don't want to see what happens here.
This is unbelievable. I know this is kind of, you know, maybe not what you would think when you think of pizza, but honestly, sometimes a really good quality pizza with just amazing roasted garlicky veggies is exactly what you need. And if you've never thought you would like a pizza like this, like if you're just
wrong.
a really straightforward pepperoni kind of guy, like Nick's a pepperoni kind of guy.
I'm a pepperoni kind of guy.
But this is amazing. And of course, obviously we're harvesting things fresh from our garden, so it just tastes extra amazing.
Yeah,
knowing
make sure
that
you do
kind
that.
of like little extra bit of love and care went into it, and knowing how fresh these ingredients are. But you
That's
could
super
get
good.
all of these same ingredients from Trader Joe's and it would be fabulous. You can even get pre-bought pizza dough and it would still be great as long as you follow the general guidelines. So wow, this is
Yes,
so
really good. Yeah.
so good. It's so beautiful. It's so just cozy, yummy, roasty fall feelings. And this lettuce is just so tender. This is red fire lettuce. We've never had it before, but
No, it's really good.
it grows incredible and it tastes incredible.
This definitely makes my struggles outside all worth it.
it?
No, it doesn't. Nothing's worth that, but it helps. Moral of the story, bottom line,
This is great.
really good.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video if you do in fact like the content. Subscribe so you can see all future content, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.